Namaste and welcome to Curiosity. I'm your host Samar Chitta and this is episode 118. We are back with another episode of Unsolved Weekly, where each week I take a little break from all the chaos around me to explore the stories that really got me thinking. From big world events to small little events that still have a huge impact on our day-to-day lives. Whether it's something I read, watched, or even wondered about, I'll be sharing it here. Every episode I'll pick one topic that really caught my attention, something from the news, science, or even everyday life. Dive into it, do a little bit of my own digging, and then share my own personal take. So, if you like asking questions and learning something new each week, take a minute, unscroll, and let's explore together. Recently, I was flipping through a history book. This one right here on my desk, and I came across something that made me pause. Imagine an entire civilization, thousands of years old, that was built carefully with huge cities and entire sewage systems that traded across regions, and they had their own writing script. Yet today, no one can read a single word of it, and that's why this whole place remains a mystery. Well, that's the Indus Valley Civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization is actually something I studied and remember distinctly due to its mysterious charm. It was the world's earliest urban cultures, where people lived in huge cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, with straight roads, drainage systems, and even public baths. If you take a look at some of the potential city plans that we've constructed based on our own knowledge and based on our own excavations, it looks pretty similar to a city that we live in now, if not a little bit more advanced. And that's really saying something because it is extremely old, just to emphasize that once again. We have managed to excavate a large part of the civilization in India and in Pakistan, especially around the Indus Valley region. And we've actually managed to get an insight into a significant part of their day-to-day lives. But when it comes to analyzing their writing, carved on seals and tablets, which give us a huge insight into their actual lives and some events that may have happened, we've hit a wall. Archaeologists have found thousands of symbols, tiny pictures that look like plants, animals, or geometrical designs. But unlike Egyptian hieroglyphics, which we decoded using the Rosetta Stone, the Indus script has no key, no bilingual text, and no translation. So right now, it's like a log diary from thousands of years ago. What stories remain behind it? And if we manage to find out what they're actually trying to say, could that change our perception on today's world? Nobody knows. But until we crack the code, voices of the civilization stay silent. Now let's zoom out into a myth and a legend. You've probably heard of Atlantis. In fact, I mentioned it in my previous episode when I was talking about the Bermuda Triangle. This is the city that supposedly sank beneath the sea. The story comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. He described Atlantis as a powerful, advanced civilization that vanished in a single day and a night of disaster. For centuries, explorers and scientists have debated whether Atlantis was real. Some say it's just a story, a warning about pride and power, and others think that it might be based on a real city that got destroyed by earthquakes or volcanic eruptions, like the island of Santorini in Greece. And then, of course, with any of these urban legends, there are wild theories. Atlantis was an alien colony, or that it still lies hidden under the ocean, which might be a possibility because the ocean is so vast and we know so little about it. But whatever the truth is, the mystery of Atlantis keeps inspiring books, movies, and the imagination of anyone who hears its name. Another dazzling mystery is El Dorado, the city of gold. Spanish explorers arrived in South America in the 1500s. They heard tales of a king who covered himself in gold dust and washed it off in a sacred lake. Soon the story grew into a legend of an entire city made of gold, hidden somewhere deep within the jungles of the Amazon. Treasure hunters searched for centuries. They braved rivers, mountains, and disease, along with some incredibly dangerous animals that lurk in the depths of the rainforest, hoping to find these unimaginable riches. Some never returned. But here's the twist. El Dorado still remains lost in the jungle. Historians think that this legend may have been exaggerated, perhaps based on the real ceremonies of the Muisca people in Colombia, who use gold dust in rituals. But the idea of a glittering lost city captured imagination so strongly that there are so many movies based on it, and people kept looking long after reason told them to stop. And then there's Stonehenge, those giant stone circles in England. Picture this, massive blocks of stone, each weighing as much as a small truck, arranged in a perfect circle thousands of years ago. And here's the kicker. This was built long before cranes or bulldozers and even any sort of heavyweight machinery. So how did these people move such heavy stones across miles of land? And what was the Stonehenge actually for? Some think it was a temple for worship, and the worship would be at the center. Others believe it was an astronomical calendar to track the sun and seasons. A few theories even suggest it had healing powers. But one theory that seems extremely silly, so the myth actually lies in the fact that Stonehenge is the feet of this huge structure that lays within the earth, and that Easter Island is the head of the structure, as they are on opposite sides of the world, almost. And this is something that, once again, people believe a lot, and obviously I think of it as an extremely funny thing. But learning about the Earth's layers in geography, it is highly unlikely that this is a possibility. But still, who knows? We for sure don't. The stones stand silent, keeping their secrets with them, and maybe we have a huge stone body hidden within the Earth's crust. Who knows? And what I find so fascinating is that these mysteries remind us how much of our past is still hidden. We think of history as settled, written in textbooks, but in reality, it's full of riddles and blank pages waiting to be filled. And what's really interesting is that these gaps are the most exciting part, because not only do they remind us that discovery isn't over, they create their own myths, their own beliefs, their own movies, their own books. If you just think about Atlantis or El Dorado and how many books and movies are actually based off it, and how many great pieces of art we've gotten off it, it just seems so insane that this small inconsistency leads to this huge whirlwind in our modern day and age. Every year, a new clue pops up. A tablet here, a ruin there. And that someday might unlock these puzzles, leading to an extremely different and evolved way in our thinking. And who knows, a listener from the future may live in a world where the Indus Valley script and the Harappan civilization is finally brought away from the darkness it sits in, and they excavate a giant human hiding in the earth. That part is highly improbable, but who knows? Anyways, that's it for this week's episode of Unsolved Weekly. Next week, I'll be back with another event or a news article that really got me thinking. So, in the meantime, don't forget to unscroll a little bit more in your own life this week. Until next week, goodbye, and Jai Hind from Curiosity.